Hello, welcome back. Part 2 of the bedside table makeover. This is it. I don't know why I'm talking like that. This is part 2 of the bedside table makeover. Part 1 was the stripping of the previously painted finish because I bought them from a charity shop and someone had painted over the top of the wax finish. So that all had to be stripped off. This is part 2. This is going to be the makeover, the putting the paint back on. So, as you can see, these are raw wood. The previous finish was wax. Then someone had painted over the top of that wax, which meant the whole lot had to come off because it was just flaking and peeling off with my fingernail anyway. So I had to strip it all off, and that I've covered on the previous video. So the next thing I'm going to do is use this. This is knotting solution. So as you can see, this is pine. Pine has knots in it. Pines knots in pine bleed through really badly. So this is a very specific product. You can see how small the bottle is. I get mine off Amazon, and this goes on any knots. I work with pine a lot. It's probably one of the most common types of wood that furniture is made out of in the UK. I have no statistics to back that up, but it is a very common wood for furniture to be made out of. You can get it relatively cheap. These bedsides were £22 for a matching pair from the charity shop, which I think is an absolute bargain. So it is relatively inexpensive. It paints beautifully, but you do have to treat the knots with this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to have problems with the knots bleeding through the paintwork in maybe days or weeks to come. So this is not a primer. Don't get the two products mixed up. This is only for treating the knots. So all you do is paint over where the knots are. It's as simple as that. And then the primer that I'm actually going to use for the entire pieces is Dixie Belle's Bond Emboss, because that's going to stop bleed through occurring over the entire piece. But the knots do need treating slightly differently, and then I just go straight over the top of it with Dixie Belle's Bond Emboss. This is a water-based primer, really easy to use and clean up. Okay, disclaimer, I'm outside and it's evening. Peacocks are very vocal most of the time, but even more so in an evening. It's 10 to 8. I don't normally paint at this time of night, but the football's on and I would rather watch paint dry, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. These have been primed over 24 hours. I wasn't actually going to start these until tomorrow, but Andy's in there watching football. I've got no interest whatsoever whether England win or lose. Let's face it, we're probably going to lose. But I thought I may as well put the evening to good use. It's not raining. It's not the best weather. It's a bit nippy actually. But I thought I would get an hour or so in painting. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to paint these using Terra Clay Paint. I'm excited because I haven't used it for a while. So I'm excited to get stuck in, and predictably I'm going to be using blues and greens. For those of you that haven't tried Terra Clay Paint, it is a very different paint. It's very different indeed. It holds its texture. It's not self-leveling, unlike chalk mineral paint and silk mineral paint, which are self-leveling. It's very thick. It's highly pigmented. The colours in this are beautiful. They do have a lot of blues and greens. That's right up my street. This green, in my opinion, is the perfect shade of green. It's called Malachite, and that's the green that I'm going to start with. So Terra Clay Paint lends itself really well to more kind of artistic finishes. If you wanted something that was a one colour finish, probably not the best paint to go for, but it does lend itself really well to layered, blendy kind of looks, and that's the kind of look that I'm going to go for on these. So I'm just going to randomly add some of the malachite in certain areas with a natural bristle brush. This is a premium chip brush, also from Dixie Belle. At this stage you might be wondering, why on earth have you primed using white primer if you're going to be using dark greens and blues? And that is a great question. Hopefully that will become apparent shortly, or it may not do. Only time will tell. There really is no method in the way that I'm adding this. As you can see, there's not really any technique. I'm just holding my brush super loosely to get those kind of rough lines. I'm not looking for perfection at all. This is not even hardly going to be visible once I've built the layers up. So I'm just looking to get the malachite on as a base colour. Okay, I'm going to leave that to air dry outside in the cold, but you can see it's already drying already. It dries a lot lighter, so when Terra Clay Paint dries, don't be alarmed, it will go a lot lighter, but once you seal it, all the vibrancy and pigmented colours come back. But obviously we're not going to seal it quite yet. There is a lot more work to do, so I'm going to go and quickly make a hot drink because I'm cold, and then I'm going to come back and start to add some other colours. Even though it's still wet, it's okay, I hope. I'm back with this, and also a sweet treat because I've just made an outrageous Mars bar and ganache thing that I saw on Instagram. So that's in the fridge, and I had a leftover mini Mars bar, so I'm going to take that with this decaf coffee because I'm not stupid drinking coffee of an evening. So this is decaffeinated, and this is going to keep the energy levels. Got to keep the energy levels going. So as you can see, it is drying behind me, but it's not completely dry, and that's okay. I'm going to go in with another colour now, and this one is blue. Okay, this one's called Galaxy. A really deep inky blue. It's a really, really nice shade. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of this, not too much. At this stage, I'm not using any water at all. I'll use that later on to kind of get the colours to melt together. But I'm just kind of filling in the areas where I hadn't added paint before. So anywhere where there wasn't malachite, I kind of went in with this Galaxy colour, which as you can see is a really, really nice shade of deep blue. Again, really roughly kind of just mapping these colours out. The next colour that I'm going to use is Blue Moon. You can't see it. Blue Moon. Blue Moon. There we go. This is a lighter blue than the colour that I'm just using. And hopefully it's kind of going to bridge the gap between the two. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to use a lighter blue anyway. So I'm just adding this lighter blue tone over the other colours, and they are touch dry, but they're not completely dry, and that's okay if they are kind of reactivated, because the thing is with Terra Clay Paint is until it is sealed, you can reactivate this paint very, very easily with water, and obviously the paint does have water in, so when you layer these colours over the top, they can reactivate each other. So that's where I'm going to leave it tonight. I've obviously used 3 colours, I've layered them. It looks like a madman's done it, but trust the process, because tomorrow we're going to come back in and layer some more colours up. And I'm not using any more colours actually. We're going to use the same colours, same process, just more layers to build up the colours and the kind of coverage and the depth and the richness of those colours. So I'm going to bring them in, I'm going to leave them to dry overnight, and then we'll come back tomorrow and repeat the process again. So although I said I was going to keep it pretty much the same and repeat it, I did change it slightly, and I changed my mind a lot during the process of this. And it was one of those things that I kind of figured out as I went along. So on my brush, I've got Blue Moon and Malachite, and I just put them on a paper plate, sort of dabs of each colour, and added them onto the brush at the same time, so that when they're applied onto the surface of the bedside, you kind of get them to melt together in the middle, but you still get pockets of blue and pockets of green, which is what I wanted. I wanted like a soft, kind of blended boho-y kind of vibe going on. Like I say, I figured a lot of this out as I was going along. A lot of it is kind of tried and tested and layered. So I left those to dry. As you can see, it dries a lot paler. And then I wanted to kind of bring it together with that really deep Galaxy colour. But I added some water to it to make a paint wash, because it is really pigmented and I didn't want to cover it all together. So with a little spritz of water and a rag, I just pulled off some of that Galaxy wash in areas. The other thing I'm pretty sure of is that I want to change the handles on here. I picked up some handles from TK Maxx last week, and they're kind of blues and greens. They're pretty nice, and there's only 4 of them, which is what I need for these pairs, so I think I might do that. So what I need to do is fill the holes where the handles were. Obviously this is something that you'd normally do at the prep stage, but I was actually planning on using handles with the existing holes, but now I'm changing my mind, so I'm filling it now. I'm using Dixie Mud in brown to fill those existing holes, and I'm just whacking it on with my finger, and once it was completely dry I just sanded it smooth with a Dixie Belle sanding sponge, and you'd never know it was there. And then I just started layering up the colours again. This lighter blue you can see in the centre is actually another colour that I'm using because I felt like it just needed a little bit more kind of tonal variation. And the good thing about Terra Clay Paint is there are a lot of blues and greens to choose from in the range. So that colour's called Cerulean Blue. I'll list them all in the description below, as always, just in case you miss any of them. And then I went in around the edges with a little bit more of the Galaxy. Again, just kind of figuring it out as I went along. And I'm stippling the paint on rather than traditionally kind of brushing it on, because that way you're not going to reactivate the paint underneath. And then I added some yellow and some turquoise, as you do. I don't know why. I don't know why I went down this route, but I felt like it needed something else. So the yellow is going to work with the blues because obviously it's a complementary colour, and that works really well. And I just felt like it just needed something different, something extra. And then the brightest turquoise is called Lani's Lagoon. It's one of my favourite colours in the whole of the Dixie Belle range. I absolutely love this shade of turquoise, and it's going to look really nice with the deeper tones layered underneath as well. And when I was happy with the placement of all these kind of crazy colours, I just started to use colour washes to kind of bring it all together. So this colour wash is in Cerulean Blue. I started with the lightest first. So once the Cerulean Blue colour wash was on, and I worked quite quickly with this, I used my water mister to kind of get the paint to distress. That way I haven't got to rub away and reactivate the paint underneath. Then I completely let it dry. Then I went in with the kind of mid blue, which was Blue Moon. Again, layered that over as a colour wash. So all a colour wash is when you mix water and paint together. And I just sprayed loads of water on it and got it to drip down and revealed the colours underneath. And then finally a colour wash with Galaxy. And that's the final colour wash that I did because I wanted the overall look to be quite dark, but with just those hints of turquoise and yellow popping through. So I left that to dry again completely. And as I mentioned, Terra has to be sealed because otherwise it remains porous and you can very easily reactivate it with water. So to make these durable, I sealed it with Terra Tuff, which is a specialist top coat that's been formulated to be used with Terra Clay Paint. It doesn't reactivate the colours, as you can see, and it brings out that vibrancy of how they looked when they're applied when they're wet, when the paint is wet. And then, you know me, I had to add a little bit of wax in there as well. So I'm using Best Wax in brown. And I like to use brown wax with blue paint because blue is quite a cool tone. And brown can kind of help warm it up a little bit and add a little bit of nice antique-y kind of vibe. So I'm just adding that with a premium chip brush, just in the areas where I want to add some shading and depth. And then once it had been on there for about 20 minutes, I basically did the other bedside. I got a lint-free rag and just rubbed the excess off, and that's just going to make sure that it's not sticky. And then obviously you can see that I put the handles on that I was talking about that I think work really well with this piece. There's a few close-ups as always, so you can see the kind of layers and the colours. The blues and greens, I've said it before, the blues and greens in the Terra Clay Paint range are absolutely stunning. The photos don't even do it justice, but here's the final stage shot. As always, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you don't already subscribe to my channel, I'd love it if you could subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Bye!